Hello and welcome back to the Everyday Leadership Series. I am really excited because we have an encore presentation this time around. So if you got a chance to catch the first interview, then you will certainly recognize this guest, Mr. Jared Bull. So Jared is a transformational executive coach and entrepreneur. Remember, he works with other coaches, executives, and entrepreneurs around the world, both online and offline, to give them the inner tools and external resources to help them bring inner visions to life. He builds company cultures, coaches teams and leaders, and champions a diverse and inclusive world. Welcome back to the series, Jared. So good to see you again.
Hey, Rochelle, thanks for having me again. I'm excited for the encore. This will be great.
I think this is going to be a ton of fun. So, maybe your answer has changed, maybe it hasn't. But just so we can kick off here as we begin again, tell us, what does leadership mean to you?
Great question. So I think leadership ultimately means to me, and I'm seeing a new form of leadership that's needed in the world we're living in today, because I think we're living in a world where there's more political, familial, cultural, social change happening than ever before. So everything is shifting. All the paradigms are changing and shifting in the corporate world, in the family world, in our culture, in society. So we need leaders, I believe, who can be challenging and hold people accountable and assertive, while at the same time be nurturing and caring. So it's both. It's, the old classical way of leading, using fear or anger or scaring people to motivate. It worked in one paradigm, but that doesn't work anymore. But on the flip side of that, just being a kind and caring and nurturing presence, that doesn't always work all the time either, because people need to be held accountable and challenged. So I look at leadership, if I had to summarize it in one sentence, it's a leader is someone who knows how to challenge or bring compassion to a person or a situation to extract the highest amount of value out of that situation. For instance, I'm doing a talk at the National Bank of Canada this week, and one of the things that I'm teaching and harping on is we need a model of leadership that challenges people to be their best self, but also melts their heart and gives them enough compassion and nurturing so they feel safe to try things they've never tried before. Like, great leaders create other leaders. And we're living in this day and age, I believe, where there is one way over the other doesn't work. You have to be a challenging and assertive and accountable presence, but not to the point where you're just showing up mean-spirited, or, pardon my language, like an a-hole, because no one's going to follow that. Like, well, yeah, you're accountable and challenging, but I don't like you. So no, I'm not getting on your bus, and I'm not allowing you to lead me. So we have this responsibility as leaders to be a challenging, compassionate, caring, nurturing presence, while still holding accountability and delegating responsibility. And I think in today's world, where you never know what's going to happen next, like, the world is changing so quickly. We have information, we have technology, we have access to information at our fingertips at any moment of the day. The world's more connected now than ever before. So because it's more connected, it's changing quicker than ever. The leaders who are going to be most successful in organizations and companies are the ones who are going to be most responsive. And so we have to be able to be sensitive and aware, while at the same time still hold our own and challenge people to step up in bigger ways. And if you can embody that way of being in any given moment, I think you're a true 21st century leader, and you will make it, and you will do great things, and you will impact people's lives and create what you want to create in the world.
That's a really good distinction about, as you call it, a 21st century leader, because to your point, the half-life of information is never been shorter, and it's getting shorter by the day. And,
yes,
it literally in every area of our lives, we are just bombarded by an onslaught of new information and things that we never thought we'd see before. I mean, to your point, politically, socially, we could talk financially / economically, literally every area of our lives has been turned up. And I'm sure every generation can say this. Big asterisks. We have a lot going on right now.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
I mean, even from a global health standard, I mean, we are maybe at the end of the pandemic, but I don't know. And it's just all sort of things are happening literally all concurrently. And so it make that in and of itself makes leadership difficult.
Yes, absolutely.
And then to compound it with, I really like this combination that you're bringing up of how do I hold people accountable while also showing them that I care, you know, and have some
Yes.
compassion with them. And so I'd love for you to dive a little bit deeper, because it's very easy, I imagine, to skew one side versus the other. Like it's very easy to skew very, you know, assertive, accountability, militaristic.
Right, right.
And then also it's very easy to skew towards compassion, nurturing, but then I have no accountability, but everybody loves me and we're all going to Chuck E. Cheese. So how do I know that I'm striking the right balance and not too far on either side?
That's a great question. So whenever I'm coaching so I was working with some of the senior managers from the National Bank of Canada just a couple of days ago, and it was really interesting to me. I look for signs and symptoms of a leader. So if you're having trouble prioritizing, if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, like what's important, what isn't important, I don't know. So having trouble with some of the prioritization, if you're having challenges and self-doubt around, you know, am I showing up as the person that I need to show up as? You know, am I being too hard or am I being too caring? Like if you're asking yourself those questions, you're in a leadership position, and two, you're doing it pretty well. You're doing it right. Like I was talking with one gentleman the other day, and he said, you know, Jared, I don't feel like sometimes I'm like, am I being too soft and too kind? And then other times I'm like, you know, am I being a bully? And I'm not sure. But just the fact that he was wrestling and having that internal dialogue showed me that that's exactly the type of leader that we need. Like you're in the absolute right space. So we want to look at it from that perspective. We want to see what are the challenges that we're having. What's our internal dialogue look like as leaders, and use that as a signpost and a pointer to, okay, I am on the right path. You know, there's sometimes where I ask myself, am I being too challenging? And like, am I breaking relationships up? Or am I not being challenging enough? Am I being too soft? And I never know. But it's because I'm just being responsive to each and every moment. And so if you're just having that internal dialogue, okay, I have a lot going on, and what do I need to prioritize? Am I too challenging to people, or am I too soft with people? You know, am I handling am I delegating properly? And do I know how to speak to trust and delegate to people that I trust? And how can I know who I can trust? If you're having all those conversations and those internal dialogues in your head, then you've like, that's it. You've done it. Like you're in a leadership position, and those are all good signposts that you're exactly where you need to be. But a lot of times leaders will think, oh, I should just know right away, and I should be 100% confident and convicted and be able to move forward. But that's not true. Like true aware leaders think about all the aspects. They think about how they're showing up. They have that internal awareness of their internal dialogues. And then they're always asking themselves those questions. And so if you find yourself wrestling with those questions, am I delegating properly? Is this person trustworthy? Are they not trustworthy? Am I being too much of a challenging person, or am I not being challenging enough? Like you're a leader, and you're a pretty good one if you're having those internal dialogues.
I think that's good. And it really, you know, circles back to something that we talked about last time, which was essentially, you know, the concept of a leader. Typically, we think of it as putting on a superficial face, you know, or we have to be someone other than who we are innately. But in fact, it's about showing up authentically and allowing yourself to know, hey, I may not have all the answers from the beginning. And so instead, I'm going to allow myself to grow into this concept of transformational leadership, which is exactly what you're talking about with this internal wrestling, this self-dialogue. So that I'll say, it sounds like showing up as your authentic self, and then allowing space for the flexibility for that authenticity to really manifest in the day-to-day experience. And so yeah, feel free
Yeah.
to keep going.
No, I love that. That's exactly it. Sometimes your authentic self might be to get really mad and hold a person accountable and say, hey, I don't like who I'm being right now, but I don't like, you're not taking responsibility for the situation and I need you. And it's frustrating to me. Are you with me? I need to count on you. Can I trust you? Are you with me? I'm with you. I need to know that you're with me. And being that stern and that firm and being okay with that sternness and that firmness, while at the same time, having the awareness that you're being stern and that other person might like it. There's sometimes where I have conversations with my team where we're setting up a goal or we have objectives to meet. And I say to them, like, hey guys, I appreciate you. We're a little bit behind. I'm not happy. You're going to see me. I'm a little upset right now, but I need to know you're with me. Where are you at? I'm going to champion you, but I need you to champion me as well too. Are you with me? And speaking to that, getting that level of trust reconnected. And that's a way of, like, traditional leadership. I think sometimes they would say you can't express your emotions. You're just, like hard on the outside and you just tell people what to do. But that's not going to work for today's world. Today's world, we can express our emotions and use the power of our emotions to rally and inspire and to regain trust. The other day I was talking from a member of my team. He said, hey, I don't feel like your heart's in it. What's going on? I need you. My heart's in this. I feel like your heart isn't fully 100%. And that's hard for me to feel. What's going on with you? Or do you need something or what's happening? And then we went into it. We were able to work through it. And then we were able to rebuild trust. Hey, I need you. I'm with you. Will you be with me 150%? You're a vital part of this team. You're a vital part of this mission. I need you. Can you support me? And being able to bring language to our emotions and not having it to be like people pleasing or like smiling or laughing around it, but also not being like just a straight bully, because that's what happens. There's like passive leadership where a person's like, I'm afraid to ask for what I want and to be assertive and to rally people and inspire people. And then there's the flip side of that where the individual might be like overtly aggressive because they're not being true to their emotions. So it's really that middle ground, being assertive and inviting people into your inspiration and your motivation and into your passion, but also into your challenging presence.
What came to mind for me was if more leaders tapped in and said, hey, you're a vital part of the team. You seem, not to put words in your mouth, but I'm going to say disengaged.
Yeah.
Like you don't seem that your head and heart are totally with it right now.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that and how can we get your head and heart back in the game?
Yeah.
What came up to me was, if more people did that, leaders or otherwise, but just people showed connection. Yeah. Wow. One, we'd have a better world. We'd have way fewer mental health challenges in general. And the great resignation probably would not have been so great.
Right.
It probably would have been a mini resignation, like a blip, as opposed to this like tidal wave that we've seen.
Agreed.
Because people aren't leaving organizations, they're leaving managers. They're leaving because they feel that no one cares,
Yes. I love that you bring this point up, Rochelle. I was on the other day with a woman and she started disengaging and I could see it. And I say, hey, you're disengaging. Like, where are you going? What's coming up? And she was like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. And I went through this moment where I was like, do I push and do I like break boundaries or do I respect boundaries? And, oh no, that's fine. Like, that's okay. Yeah, I totally understand. When like, I don't understand. So I saw an opportunity for her to grow as a leader and as a human being. And so I expressed that. I said, I see an opportunity for you to grow here. I know you're asking for space, but I'm going to keep pushing. And I know you might not like it, but I care for you and want the best for you. And I see an opportunity for your potential. And then I went deeper. I said, who betrayed your trust? Who betrayed your trust? And I kept going deeper and deeper and deeper. And she was like, I have to get off this call. I can't do this right now. I said, I know you can't. I know you can't. I'm with you. I'm not going anywhere. I see it. Because me as a transformational leader, I could see where she had built walls up within herself and where that was creating disengagement in her life and where that was hurting her heart. And I wanted to break through that wall but at the same time, I wanted to respect the boundary that she was putting down too. But human beings create boundaries under false premises all the time, and they disengage with the world. So it was that hard line for me. It was like, I push the boundary, but I back off, push about challenge, loving, nurture, understanding, challenge, and use that way of communicating and relating so that person opens up to a deeper level of themselves and a deeper level of engagement with the world. And that's what a transformational leader does. Like if you go into work and you see some of your employees who are disengaged, hey, Bob, like you don't seem too motivated or excited or inspired there. What's going on? Oh, no. And then they try to cover it up. It's like, no, you don't need to cover it up. Like what's really going on? Like I'm with you. And then you go deeper and then, oh, I don't, maybe I just don't want to talk about it. I respect that. It sounds like you're processing it a lot, but what if I could help you process it and help you get on the other side of it quicker so you can be engaged again? Because we need you, I need you. And frankly, the way you're showing up right now, it's not fully engaging. It's not honoring to the work and it's not honoring to the heart. I understand you're going through something. You can't hide it. And I respect it, but you can't hide it. So what's going on, man? I'm with you. Like it stays between you and I. I need you. The team needs you, but we're seeing you're out of it. Where are you at? What's going on? And most individuals don't know how to communicate or relate that way. And so what happens is you create a workforce or even in families where people just shut down. They shut down, they sweep it under the rug. Oh, no, I'm fine. Don't even worry about it. I'm fine. And then it just stays there. And then they feel dead on the inside. They feel stagnant. They're at a lower energy level. So it's really important for us to leaders. I think the three greatest, you could call it ways of being for a leader are compassion, challenging energy, and curiosity. Is it a time to have compassion and melt a person's heart? Is it time to challenge a person and karate chop them in the heart to crack an emotional wall that they put up to keep themselves safe or give themselves the illusion of safety? Or is it a time to get really, really curious and ask deeper questions around that person's heart? And it's one of those three, always, 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 always. The answer is one of those three. Do I need to be this compassionate in this moment? Do I need to be challenging or do I need to be curious? Which one? And if you use that as a compass throughout all of your leadership style and management, you will break open hearts and minds everywhere you'll go, and you'll inspire and motivate people, and you'll be able to rally individuals around you and with you.
Yes. That's pretty much the only thing I can say. Because I think to your point, this is something that we are missing in the workplace, but we're also missing in our own individual lives and families. And so I think this is definitely one of those things that transcends professional life and personal life. And it just taps into one other thing that we mentioned last time that I'd love to revisit because it was so impactful to me. And that was this concept of having a baseline assessment of your comfort zone, uncomfort zone, and trauma zone. And I know I had not heard that prior to our interview, and it was so transformational, not to overuse it as a buzzword, but it was really transformational for me. And so I'd love for us to revisit that because I think it relates very well here, because to your point, there's only three answers, at compassion, challenging energy, or curiosity. And so how does that play into us having these three different zones? Because I think everyone knows what their comfort zone is, but to really define an uncomfort zone and a trauma zone is new. So please.
It's a great question. I love that, Rochelle. It's a great question. I'm excited to connect these two. So I learned that concept from Sherpa Executive Coaching out of the University of Georgia. They run a great coaching program there, Brenda Corbett and Judith Coleman. And they teach those zones. They don't teach the compassionate and the challenging and knowing what that's more of my own work. But I would say this is why we need to simultaneously respect, but also break boundaries, whether it's in a sales conversation or whether it's in a relationship or whatever the context of the situation may be. The comfort zone is where the person feels safe, right? And the uncomfort zone is where they learn. Now, what happens is if we take hits in life, traumas, whether it's financial traumas, maybe someone betrayed your trust in business, maybe someone betrayed you in a relationship, we as human beings close up because we go internal. That's the very nature when we have a trauma. We go internal, we need to process the experience, extract the wisdom and understand it and grow and develop. Now, what happens is sometimes people will close up and they won't open back up again, or they'll be afraid to open back up again because they don't want to be hurt. So if they've been hurt, and whether it was consciously or unconsciously, they close up. Their energy, their body, their emotions, they disengage. And you see this even in fights, like with couples. Like if one person starts shutting down and they're just like disengaging, what happens? The other person gets even more mad. Oh, and they come at them even worse. And that's because the other person is disengaging, they're shutting down their heart, and the other person subconsciously senses that. So they think they need to talk louder, get angrier to break through that disengagement because they want connection. They want engagement. So it's our job as leaders to always help individuals open, continually stay open and never shut off, never shut down. And that's an art and a science of communication and relating. So it's a long way for me to say, and how this whole concept connects over into the comfort zone, the uncomfort zone, the panic zone, is a very person isn't going to feel comfortable when you invite them into their uncomfort zone. That's the very nature of being in a uncomfort zone. It doesn't feel comfortable. I don't want to go here. So the person's boundaries that they're putting down is the very thing that is keeping them from operating at a higher level. And if we're a true transformational leader, we can still respect their boundaries, but politely not respect it in the sense of, hey, I understand you're putting down these boundaries, but you're putting down these boundaries because it makes you feel safe. And it's keeping you from your expansion and your growth. I see an area where there's more for you to come out. I see there's an area of growth here. And our commitment as leaders is to grow other people. So if you truly are a leader, transformational leader, and you want to grow other people, then it's almost your duty or obligation to respect the boundary, but break it. If you see there's room for their growth, if you see there's room for them to expand. So when I did a post the other day and I said, are you committed to sales? Are you committed to the sale? Are you committed to respecting the person's boundaries in the relationship? Are you committed to that human being's growth? And like that, if you're committed to a person's growth, you'll be willing to sacrifice the sale at times. You'll even be willing to sacrifice the feeling goodness of the relationship at times as well too, for the sake of growth.
Right.
And that is like going all in, and that's playing all out. And so the very area where a person doesn't want to go, their uncomfort zone, sometimes is exactly where we need to go. And we can ask permission and say, hey, for the sake of growth, I'm going to push here, or I'm going to assert, or I'm going to break. Are you okay with that? And are you ready for it? And kind of like a doctor, let them know what's about to happen and go ahead and do it. And it can be risky. It's a risk, but if you're really committed to transformational work and growing leaders and inspiring and motivating people, then that's it. And sometimes people won't like it, but in other times they will love it and they will love you for it. So asking and inviting and inspiring and motivating a person to step up into their discomfort zone, it's not fun, it's not scary, and they may want to push you away because that's their fear. Like anger is always a mask for fear. And we as leaders have to invite people into their fear. And it's not pretty at times. So you might get pushed back and a little anger thrown at you, but that's a part of walking this space. Hey, I understand you're angry. I understand this is uncomfortable for you. It's uncomfortable for me. I don't like it either. But this is what I see is on offer for your life. And this is the new level you can operate at. Will you step into it? I'm with you all the way. I'm not going to let you down. I'm with you. Will you step into this with me? I need you. The world needs you. Will you step up? And then they either can choose to step into that invitation, or they can push you in that invitation away. But that's the model of leadership that we need in the world, because it's a responsive level of leadership. It's always asking and inviting the highest amount of human potential to come out and be actualized.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. Wow. It, it's hard to have difficult conversations in real time. And
Totally.
that's what this is, managing those things, and not, yes, you're pushing, but it's a guided push, dare I say, because
Yes.
it's almost like a surgeon who says, I'm going to cut here. This is what it's going to feel like.
Yep.
You can let me know if you don't want this, as opposed to just saying, lay down, here's some anesthesia, I'm just
Right.
gonna go chopping it up.
Right.
And so
Exactly.
it almost feels more respectful of the other person and their experience, because
Yes.
you're inviting them along the journey. And so again, I'm just reflecting on some of the difficult conversations that I've had. And yes, I think it's easier, let's say, to lean in and say, I'm trying to help you, like I'm guiding you towards this, which is true. But a lot of times the how in which you say something is more important than what it is you're saying. And that guided,
Absolutely.
so I really love this. I'm going to call it guided approach, because it feels, uh, it's still difficult. It's still a difficult conversation, but it feels so much more managed and so much more guided, particularly when someone is saying, will you allow me to go there with you? And also, I'm with you along the entire journey. You're not alone. So
Absolutely. I
I
love that.
I love that as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. I feel more equipped, in my personal life, professional life, and all that, just by having this conversation, because it'll definitely, just me myself, it allowed me to reflect on, while yes, it's good to go there and push people to that next level, maybe there's a better way to shepherd that process. And so I
Absolutely.
appreciate you for sharing
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, navigating that space is, yeah, it's very tricky, but it takes a certain level of communicational and relational development to be able to even go there in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'll ask you this, you know, so with all the things in mind, and I know which is our second conversation now.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, what do you think is one leadership trait or quality that most people tend to overlook?
Oh, great question. One leadership trait that people tend to overlook, ambiguity. Ambiguity for sure. Yeah. Yeah. If you're in a leadership position, you're gonna face ambiguity all the time. It's the very nature of leadership. Managing multiple realities. You're sometimes mid-level managers, you're trying to manage what the senior leadership is saying and what the investors are saying. Then you're also trying to be an advocate for the lower level employees. So it's like, it's ambiguity for sure. No, very few people talk about the harshness of leadership and ambiguity. And it is hard because you have to manage multiple subjective realities. You have to advocate for multiple parties with different intentions and different desires and find commonality. So you're faced with situations where you might not know the right answer, and there is no right answer, but you have to make a decision and take responsibility for that decision anyway. And sometimes that can feel overwhelming. Like and it also can, dare I say, feel victimizing at times. Like I remember I was coaching one gentleman in a startup, and they were successful. So I started with them 6 years ago, and since then we've set up 5 plant locations. They're a thriving business. They'll probably be public in 2 or 3 years. So it was a really great success story. But I was with them for 5.5 years, and he was starting up the business. So he was bringing the team together and investing a lot of money, putting it all in. But at the same time, he was also an investor. So he was playing multiple roles. He had to play the role of the investor because he was an investor, but he also had to play the role of like advocating for his employees as well too, and keeping them motivated and excited and paying them at the levels they wanted to be paid at. So he has this dynamic where it's like, okay, as an investor, I want to get the most that I can from the bottom line. So ultimately, I want to get the most work and value out of people that I can without ruining the relationship and without people quitting. While at the same time, I want to give the people more opportunity so they can have a better life and they can provide better finances and everything as well too, and have more opportunity. And he was constantly faced with decisions where other people on the board and investors were saying, look, we need to cut employees. We need to, like, bottom line, like, how are we extracting the most money out of this? But then he also had to be an advocate for a culture and create a culture that was honoring employee wellness and helping people feel empowered. And they had all the resources as well too. And like, that's an exhausting position to be in. And as a leader, if you're fumbling around with those philosophical questions, like, you're in the leadership position. And sometimes it's as simple as, I don't know what to do here. I don't know what's right. I don't know what it might be ethical or not ethical, because there's just two stories and I don't know which story to believe. I have understanding and compassion for both stories. I just need to make a decision. And sometimes it's that simple. You just, okay, I don't know. I know that I don't know. I'm just going to make a decision. And everyone leadership will say, oh, let your value system guide you then. But values are always, like, that's also, we do have values, but in one role, you might have one set of values. In another role, you might have like a different set of values based off of what your responsibility is. So it's understanding that ambiguity and being able to make decisions and take full responsibility for making those decisions, even in the face of that ambiguity.
Thank you for putting language to that.
Yeah.
Because what I liked about how you called it, I'm managing multiple subjective realities, is you're not invalidating any reality.
Right.
Which often happens along the way. It's like, yeah, I know that's what you think, but you only know blah, blah, blah. Well, of course you only know from your perspective, right? But it doesn't mean that that person is wrong or that their reality is incorrect. It's just a subjective reality.
Exactly.
And so I really appreciate, again, putting language around it, because it allows each person to feel that their perspective is heard and valued, which is so hard to do these days.
Totally. And that's that communication.
Yeah. No, I was just going to reiterate to what you said, is that, it can be exhausting for the leader to have to manage all these, because regardless of what leadership role you're in, whether you're an investor / CEO, or just an employee / parent, we all have multiple roles that we play in day-to-day lives that we need to manage and show up as. And so it's, I really like that you allow people to take a proactive role in all of the realities that they need to manage on behalf of others, and not alienate all the different, dare I say, stakeholders in their life or business.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's one of the key communicational development pieces that leaders need to recognize, is like, there can be multiple realities that are true and correct, but we need to acknowledge the other person's reality, but also invite the other person to see our side and then just make a decision anyway.
Yeah.
Hey, I understand X, Y, and Z. I get it. I see you. I acknowledge it. It's not going to happen. And I'm sorry. Like, that's the end of the story. Mm-hmm. And then just owning that and being okay with that, because leaders have a lot going on. And so yes, we can still acknowledge and empathize and understand someone's position, but then still take an action away from their position, and that doesn't support what they want.
Right. Just acknowledging their position, it sometimes is sufficient, because at least they feel heard, even if you don't act on their ideas,
Yes, exactly. And then also inviting, and not being afraid to invite another person to have compassion for your position and invite them into that, like being okay with that. Like, sometimes when I'm on a sales call, I'll tell people like, hey, I know that you're open to this and you're doing this, but it would mean a lot to me if you could give me a yes right now, because it would make my job easier from a business standpoint, from a managerial standpoint. I'm working towards this ending goal. So your investment in this program would be supportive for, the transformational community as a whole. Like not even just like making it about them and what they want, but like making it about yourself and what you're creating and what's important to you and how it would support your heart. Like, and it's okay. Like, you can leverage that. Like, does that make sense?
Wow.
And most people think they can't do that.
You're like, in theater, is it breaking the fourth wall or the third wall, something like that? It's like, like let's say you and I are actors, and we have our co-stage actors and everything, but then there's the audience. And so when you break the fact where you're like, I am on stage and you're watching me, I think it's called breaking the fourth wall or something like that.
That's it. You're right.
And that's essentially what you're doing. You're like, well, I respect the fact that you need to think about it. I respect the fact that, you have all these other priorities that you're balancing. But at the same time, I also have priorities that I need to balance. And just like you, have a business to run. And so really owning that and allowing them to say, hey, while you have your own priorities, at the same time, the clock stops for no man. That's what my mother used to tell me.
Yeah.
And so
absolutely.
I'm not going to be waiting around for you to decide this is the best opportunity for you to step in. And so if this is a yes for you, then it would be in service not only to yourself, but to me as well. If you would go ahead and let me know either way. A no today is better than a yes 6 months from now sometimes.
Exactly. And being okay with that and being okay with going there. Like, hey, this would mean a lot to, like, hey, I understand you want to pay in half or like pay just a quarter of it right now, but like it would mean a lot to me if you could pay in full because I'm saving up for, like you can ask for empathy. You can invite for empathy from other people for your situation. And most people don't know how to do that. They don't know how to bring a voice. Like that's part of having your gut, your power, your heart, and your voice all connected is you can invite empathy as well too. It's like, hey, it would really mean a lot to me and my community if you did this. We pay taxes here. And I'm running as well too. Like it would support that, like letting them see the bigger picture. It's not just like, oh, I'm a person who wants them in my program. It's no, like I'm a person who's running a program and I love you to be a part of it and you'll get value in these areas, but it would also like, you'll also be giving value to other people in these areas just by being a part of it. And like being okay with breaking that wall and asking for that empathy and that understanding and advocating and championing for yourself and your connections as well too.
I think this is an excellent segue because I know you have a complimentary gift for everyone. So tell us a little bit more about Mastering the Art of Transformation and how they can take advantage of it, and a little bit more about that, because I think this is a perfect segue to that conversation.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. So the Mastering the Transformation. So I have a class called The Art of Transformation. And really, when I look at transformation, the word transformation means across the whole structure. So it means a change across the whole structure. Change isn't permanent. Transformation is permanent. Like when you truly have a transformational experience, you can never go back to who you were before. It's impossible. It's like your thinking, your identity, how you saw the world. You don't even have an option to go back. It's not like you just, it's not there anymore. So true transformation is a complete wiping out of who and how you were before, to the point where you really don't have a memory of who you were before. So there's a part of it that's like, not to sound dramatic, but part of transformation is actually like true transformation is actually death. You die to a part of yourself, but then new life comes in from that. So the class is centered around how do you not just be a coach, how do you not just be a healer, but how do you actually be a true transformational presence in the world? How do you shift someone's foundation that their entire personality has been built upon to where they show up as a totally different human being? And some people are not ready for that. Like a lot of people do healing work where they're just kind of putting a Band-Aid over, or other people do coaching work where you kind of pump people up and give them the right skill sets they need to accomplish their goals. But true transformational work comes from a state of being. And it's literally a wiping out of the old self. And so as I shared earlier in that conversation with the woman who was like, I can't be on this call any longer, but I could see that there's a transformational moment there. That was it. It was like, hey, I know your trust has been betrayed in the past and you're putting up the walls right now because you want to protect yourself from having your trust betrayed again. But those walls that you're putting up, it may make you feel safe, but at the same time, it's keeping from better things in life coming in. And I'm here to help you gently break down those walls so you can open up to life again. So I know it's not pretty, and I know you want to put a boundary up right now and feel safe, but let's stay open. I'm with you all the way. Will you look like, who betrayed your trust in the past? Let's go there and go into that. And this happens. So this happens all in all aspects of life. It's not just like people who've had a rough life. It's business owners, people who've been real successful. So it's really important for us as transformational leaders, as business owners, as coaches, to embody a communicational and relational style that allows people to stay open, but invites them to step into uncomfortable spaces. And that's what it means to be a transformational leader. So the course is centered purely around that. And how do you master this craft? Not only in your coaching and your art and mastery of what it means to be a coach, but also in sales as well too. Because sometimes sales, sometimes making a sale happen is the transformation itself. Is like a person may have sales trauma. That's a thing that I teach in the course, where how can you identify when people have invested their money in something and it didn't work out for them? And so then they shut down. Okay, I'm never investing my money in anything ever again. It didn't work out last time, so why would it work out this time? Like, that's something that you need to be able to address as an entrepreneur. Hey, has anyone betrayed your trust in the past? Hey, have you invested in something and it didn't work out and it made you rethink your investments and doubt your ability to make decisions and proper investments? That's never going to go anywhere. Like doubt, concern, worry, trauma, it's a part and parcel of the human condition. You're guaranteed to have disappointments and upsets and setbacks. But when you know how to have the right communicational and relational skills and the discernment, and you have that in you and those skill sets equipped, you're able to move through those difficult conversations with a little bit more ease and grace, and more power. It's more empowering. So that is the crux of the course. If you want to learn to master this craft, it's all there. And if you want to learn to master the sales process from a place that honors your heart and your power, but also the heart and the power of another human being, it's there as well too. It's the most authentic, genuine way to do it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean,
yeah,
I feel like round 2 was almost better than round 1, and round 1 was good, everybody. Round 1 was very good.
That's good. That's good.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for circling back and spending a little bit more time with us here on the Everyday Leadership series. I guess any final thoughts, Jared, before we sign off?
No, I just encourage and invite people to, always step into their highest potential, no matter what they've been through, whether it's business trauma, whether it's been through life trauma. I do believe we're on this planet to grow our spirit. There's this great saying, without getting too esoteric or mystical here, there's this great saying by Thierry del Charlon, I believe I'm pronouncing his name right, who says, we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. And I would agree with that, but I would add to it that, like, yes, we're spiritual beings having a physical experience, but we're here to grow our spirit. Like, we're here to grow our spirit. We're going to have trauma, physical trauma. We're going to have emotional trauma, mental trauma. We're going to have setbacks, mishaps in business, relationship, life. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. It's part and parcel of the human condition. But what we want to do is equip ourselves with the right support systems and the right skill sets and the right people who allow us to endure those traumas, those natural setbacks of life, and stay open and continue to take action anyway. Because that's what we're here to do. We're here to grow our spirit. We're here to refine our spirit. That's why we're here. At least that's what I think. I used to get caught up in the phase of like, oh, I had this bad experience and I'm just going to stop, or I'm going to, take a break. And you can always take a break. You can always take a break along your path, whatever path you have for yourself, or whatever you think that higher intelligence, whether it's God or whatever it may be, whatever that path is for you, you can take breaks from it. But I would always, I would encourage and invite anyone who's listening to this to, no matter what you've been through, no matter what challenges you've had, check in with yourself every day. Am I living into my fullest potential in each and every moment? That's all you have to do. Some people have big dreams, start empires. That's great. You only ever have the moment in front of you. And if you're asking yourself the question, am I showing up in a way that makes me proud? Am I living into my highest potential in this moment? You've done your work well. And like, that is a valuable compass. as you expand into new areas where you don't know what to do, just ask yourself that, am I proud of who I'm showing up as and how I'm showing up in this moment? And if that is your orientation in life, moment by moment, day by day, you're going to do some amazing things in this life. And I think you're going to have a real impact in the world. That's my main compass. Am I proud of how I'm showing up in this moment? And am I giving it my all in this moment?
Wonderful.
So my last invitation.
No, I think that's absolutely beautiful and such a healthy way to view the progress that you make on a daily basis. Thank you so much for sharing that. Jared, of course, it has been a pleasure to speak with you a second time. And I hope that it certainly is not our last. Thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Rochelle. It's been an honor.